Today's learning goal is I can understand the difference between a percent and a decimal and fraction. The title is Percent, Decimals, and Fractions. Let's begin with some vocabulary. Vocabulary for today is percent means 100. We're talking about percentages today. A percent is a ratio whose denominator is 100. The symbol for a percent looks like that. We're super familiar with that, okay? That percents are everywhere and you see them all the time. Number one, so let's begin with some practice here. We're going to start off by converting decimals into percentages. So if we have 0.2 and we want to convert this into a percentage, you simply just move the decimal over 2 places to the right. Then add the percentage symbol on to get 20%. This is a shortcut because we're actually multiplying 0.2 times 100. Let's try another one where we convert a decimal to a percent. 0.32 as a percentage. Just move the decimal 2 places to the right. Then add a percentage sign. Again, the reason why we move it 2 places to the right is because it's per 100, multiplying. Let's go on to number 3. What's different about this question than the first two? Well, now we have a percentage, and we're going to convert it to a decimal. So, if we had a decimal to a percentage here, and we went to the right, and now we have a percentage to a decimal, we have to go to the left. If we multiplied here by 100, we divided here by 100. And if you don't believe me, you could try it on your own. So 5% to a decimal is 0.05. Number 4. We have 355% to a decimal. Always move it 2 places because a percentage is per 100. So you start off here and you go 2 places to the left. You get 3.55 as a decimal. So in conclusion, for the first part of our lesson, decimals to a percent, 2 to the right. Do you remember what operation we said causes us to do that or allows us to move it 2 places to the right? It's multiplication. 2 to the right. Why is it 2 to the right? Well, because 100 has 2 zeros. If you have a percentage and you're converting it to a decimal, you go 2 to the left. This is just the opposite of this. This is just the opposite of this. So when we convert a percentage to a decimal, we go 2 to the left because it's like we're dividing by 100. And again, a percentage is per 100. And there are 2 zeros in 100. Let's continue with our lesson. There are 4 critical parts to today's lesson, and we've covered 2 of them. Next thing we want to do is we have a fraction here and we want to convert it to a percentage. There are 2 ways to do this. If you remember the definition for a percentage means per 100. It's a ratio over 100. So we have 3 over 25. We want to make this per 100. In this case, we can use the shortcut here to figure out what it is as a percentage. How did we go from 25 to 100? Simply multiplying by 4. 12 over 100. Now we want to write this as a percentage. And it's 12%. It doesn't always work out this way. In this case, we were able to multiply the top and the bottom by 4 to make them both, to make it out of 100. But sometimes it won't be that easy. So let me show you a different strategy you can use if you don't have this shortcut available to you. So we'll take the top number and we'll put it inside the TP, like that. 25 can't go into 3, so we'll add a decimal and a 0. Percent per 100, therefore it's going to be a decimal. So 25 goes into 30 one time. Now I'm just doing long division. 30 minus 25 is 5. I add a 0. 25 goes into 50 two times. And I get 0.12. Now I have to convert this into a percentage. And if you remember from earlier in our lesson, if you have a decimal and you were to turn it into a percentage, you move it 2 places to the right. So we get the same answer, but in 2 different ways. Let's go on to number 6. We have 7 over 40. I can't think of a number that you could multiply 40 and 7 by that makes the bottom 100. So what that means is we're going to have to do long division and divide here. We have 7 over 40. So the 7 will go inside the house and the 40 will go on the outside. 40 can't go into 7, so I add a decimal and a 0. 40 can go into 70 one time. 70 minus 40 is 30. Add a 0. 40 can go into 37 times. You get 280. $300 minus 280 is 20. Add one more 0. And 40 goes into 200 5 times. Now we have 0.75. 0.75. To convert 0.75 into a percentage, much like the last example, we have to move our decimal 2 places to the right. So our percentage is 17.5%. And yes, percentages can be parts of a whole or include decimals. Let's continue. Now we've covered so far in this lesson turning decimals into percentages, turning percentages into decimals, turning fractions into percentages, and now we're going to cover turning a percent into a fraction. Do you remember how to convert a percent into a decimal? Because that's how we're going to start for this one. Well, if you think back from the notes from before, it says to convert a percentage to a decimal, you move 2 places to the left. So we have 2, 2, 3. We're going to go 1, 2, and there we go. We have 2.23. We're not quite done yet, because we have to take this per decimal and turn it into a fraction. Remember, a percentage is per 100. So we're going to take the 2 and write it on the side. And then we're going to take this part, and this is the tens, hundredth place. Hundreds kind of sounds like 100. So we're going to make our fraction out of 100. So this fraction, percent as a fraction, is 2 and 23 over 100. If you can simplify this fraction, go ahead. In this case, you can't. So 223% as a fraction is 2 and 23 over 100. Let's continue. We want to write 5% as a fraction. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this in to a decimal. When we turn a percent into a decimal, we go 2 places to the left. Now we have 0.05. Again, 10th place, 100th place. 100th kind of sounds like 100. So we'll do 5 over 100. Now we want to convert this, now we want to simplify this into a more simplified fraction. Is there a number you can divide 5 and 100 by? Yes, there is. 1 over 20. So 5% as a fraction is 1 over 20. Today's learning goal was I could understand the differences between a percent, decimal, and a fraction. Today we also learned about how to take a decimal and turn it into a percentage. How to do a percentage to a decimal. How to take a fraction and turn it into a percentage. And how to find the percent as a fraction. Thanks for tuning in.